My name is Michael Hollerbach. I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I am just celebrated 19 years sober. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I am also licensed to take care of animals, so I'm a doctor for all God's creatures, and I just want to help and serve others.
Very cool. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us. So if you could start off by sharing a bit about your childhood.
Oh, my childhood. Me and my friends talk about our childhood whenever we get together, and we feel like we had the greatest childhood anybody could ever have. You know, my bedroom window overlooked a park. There were a lot of kids in our neighborhood, so anytime I seen somebody in the park, I'd grab my baseball mitt, or I'd grab my basketball, I'd grab my football cleats, and I'd be out the door playing in the park, playing sports. I played sports almost every day of my childhood. You know, I played Little League football, Little League baseball, basketball all through high school. You know, so sports was a huge part of my life until I got introduced to alcohol. You know, and then drinking and driving in cars and chasing girls, that all took over from there. You know.
Gotcha. And about what age did that start?
14.
Okay.
So I like to tell a story about my last game of football. I scored the winning touchdown. My last game of baseball, I was the MVP of the championship game. My last basketball game I played, I woke up underneath the hotel sink, dry heaving and throwing up because I'd found alcohol. And that night before my last game of basketball, you know, we were partying and drinking, and so I was going into the locker room all hungover and just sick. So, you know, in my teenage years is where alcohol really kicked in. You know, I grew up in the sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. You know, and I really fully embraced that because I lived so close to Detroit. You know, once I was able to drive, we were always going to Detroit for concerts. You know, back in the late 70s, it was all Bob Seger and Ted Nugent and Jay Giles and Journey, and all the concerts were in Detroit. So all the fun and thrill was up in Detroit. So we were always up there chasing girls and going to concerts and hanging out with buddies, and cooler full of beer because it's like an hour drive up there. So we have a cooler full of beer, road trip up, you know, road trip back. It was just a wild time, and I just got caught up in it, you know, and the addiction gene just kicked in.
Gotcha. And during that time, I mean, that's the thing that I think sometimes people don't recognize is there is fun times. Like that is part of it. If it was miserable from the beginning, nobody would continue.
You're right.
So, so during that time, did you start to experience any type of consequences, criminal, internal, family?
Well, 2 months after I turned 18, I did get a DUI, you know, but I chalked that up to just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, it was just circumstance, you know, but I was drinking before I even learned how to drive. So I kind of learned how to drink and drive together, you know, and my friends all together, you know, whoever was the least drunk drove.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, so after high school, off to college?
No college.
Okay. So what'd you do?
What did I do? Fell in love, you know, with a childhood sweetheart. You know, we got together young, and we had raised kids, and I just stayed close with my network of friends. You know, I ended up getting a job driving a truck, and that gave me a lot of freedom just to smoke weed while I drove. You know, I loved the job because I could listen to rock and roll music when I drove, and I could just smoke weed and interact with people at the stops that I was delivering to. And you know, kids were great, wife was great, life was good. You know, I was in Toledo, Ohio, near family. Every man in my dad's side of the family was an alcoholic, so family gatherings were always fun, a lot of drinking, you know, and not much turmoil, you know. But I wasn't an everyday drinker, you know. I just drank, but I didn't have the shut-off valve. You know, once I started drinking, I was drinking till, you know, I fell asleep, or till money ran out, or till the wife said it's time to go, you know. And once I got divorced, you know, it was my childhood sweetheart, so I didn't really get to explore much, you know. And then the marriage kind of fell apart, a lot of stress and things, you know. And so at 31, I became single, and then the whole addiction just took off, you know, just wild, crazy money and drugs and women and freedom. And, you know, when I didn't have the kids, I was a wild man. You know, when I had the kids, I was just pretty sturdy, good father, you know, love my kids. Like I said, I didn't drink every day, but when I did drink, I didn't have that shut off valve. It was the same thing for weed, you know. Whenever weed was around, I could never make it last. I always was compulsively wanting it, craving it.
Right. So kind of a double life.
Yes, correct.
And so you loss of your marriage, but then this kind of freedom. So could you talk about how that in that freedom, how your disease progressed?
I got to a point where I was living in an apartment complex, and we had 4 apartments upstairs, and there were 6 single guys living in these 4 apartments. So, and I happened to work a mile away.
Oh.
So right after work, coming back to my place was like the party central. So at that point, it became, drinking and smoking weed most every day.
Mm-hmm.
But we stayed close to home, and somebody always had drugs. Somebody always, was buying beer. Many times, digging change out of the drawer to buy that last 40 ouncer.
Yeah.
And then, cocaine got introduced. So cocaine became part of my life story. And it wasn't that I was spending a lot of money, because I wouldn't spend money on drugs per se, because I had my kids and I couldn't see. But I did favors for people that had the drugs, so I'd be given drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and trade for exchanging, bartering system more or less.
Right.
And a lot of people liked me, very likable person,
Mm-hmm.
So people loved to party with me. I was in no nonsense and no drama.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So at any point did like family members or your kids, I mean, as they're growing up, did anybody ever say anything to you, hey, maybe this is a bit of a problem, or any of that?
Well, my dad nearly died from drinking, alcoholism. He got so bad where he would go to bed with a, glass of whiskey. Middle of the night, he would wake up and do a couple shots, fall back asleep. He almost died. Fortunately, he went into treatment, 30-day rehab, and got sober. So he started going to 12-step programs, and I just seen the changes in him, and he became a lot more fun, a lot more caring and loving, and I just kind of watched him. And then he started to criticize me for my usage, but, it's okay.
Right. You're an adult.
I'm an adult.
You have your own life. You have your own kids.
Control,
yeah.
I got to control, and then came a time where I lost my job driving the truck because they outsourced us. But I was given a nice severance package, a lot of money in my pocket. I paid off all my bills, had lots of money left, and went down to Key West and just had a wild time, just ridiculous. I guess that's where I hit my bottom, because at one time I woke up on top of my van with people taking pictures of me, another time just ridiculous behavior,
Yeah.
And I came back from Key West like with no money to buy my kids Christmas presents. I'd just blown all that money in 3 to 4 months, and I'm like, what a scumbag. You had all this money, you could have gave the kids the best Christmas of their lives, and now you got to charge things on credit cards to give the kids a Christmas, and now I'm back in debt.
Right.
And I don't have a job.
Right.
Yeah. So I felt like a real scumbag. So it really got me thinking, like, man, I got to make a change. This is not the father I want to be. And then my kids started to get in trouble with smoking weed and skipping school, So it really got me thinking about, man, I got to make a change. So, I did the typical independent, try it on my own thing, where, I would try just to drink but don't smoke weed, or smoke weed, just don't drink, or drink, alternate with water, nothing ever worked. It was always a failure, I always went back. So self-esteem started to really, sink, I'm like, why am I so weak? Why can't I do this? Why am I stronger to be able to stop,
right?
And drink like a normal person, At one point I went to a little outpatient, IOP, 4 hours a night for 5 nights a week, and that helped a little bit, made me think, one of the things I seen at that IOP, and that I'll never remember, and I got a tattoo, I over E here. There was a priest who was doing this presentation, this video, and on the blackboard behind him it said I over E, like a fraction. And I'm like, what does that mean? I didn't even remember what he said, because I'm trying to think of what I over E meant, and then he finally got to the end and the conclusion where I over E stands for intelligence over emotion, where alcoholics and drug addicts live emotionally over intelligently. They don't make smart choices, they make the choices based off their emotions and their moods, So it really got me thinking about, man, I got to start making better choices, and that crazy environment I was living in, I had to get out. So I moved back to Toledo because at the time I was living in the Detroit area
Okay.
and driving, drinking 4 or 5 nights a week. I knew at some point I'm going to get arrested, get in trouble, insurance, and all that nonsense. Maybe even kill somebody. You know. So came back here, and fortunately, my son got in trouble with the law, and he was forced into this recovery group. And I went there with my son and just clicked with so many different people. You know, they were fun. They loved sports. You know, they loved to laugh. They loved to pick on each other. It was kind of like back in the grade school, high school days, joking with your buddies in the locker room.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Yes.
picking on each other. We'd go to concerts. I went to see Metallica sober. Never went to a concert sober before. You know.
Yeah.
And we just had a blast.
Right. You actually remember the concert?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to see Van Morrison in the fall, and I'm so excited. I'm really excited to go and see it. And I had said, you know, concerts are so much better now. Like I remember the entire show. It's pretty fantastic. So through that recovery group, because drinking, you know, pretty regularly and using, even with trying to control, did you experience any physical like withdrawal symptoms, and how did you work through that physical part of the detox?
Not so much physical,
Okay.
more emotional.
Okay.
I was sad. I felt like a loser. You know, I felt like a scumbag because, you know, I couldn't drink like a normal person. My finances were so screwed up. You know, I look at myself in the mirror. I would just, you know, not really want to look at myself in the mirror. You know, I brush my teeth. I would just brush my teeth and not look in the mirror. You know, a lot of times I get up in the morning, I don't even look in the mirror, just put a baseball hat on and go. You know, so it was more emotional for me and my self-worth and my loss of self, basically. So not too much physical. Fortunately, the group I was involved with had a big theory where you're an addict. You have an addictive personality. Change your addiction to something positive. So we started running, you know, and walking and jogging, and I didn't have no money, so I'd go to the library and read books, you know, and stay home a lot and read books. But a lot of loneliness, you know, because whole total lifestyle change, and don't want to hang out with old friends because there's a lot of temptation there, you know, and go back to old lifestyle. So.
And kind of unique of going through it with your son as well, and having a father in recovery too. So were you able to utilize some of that family support to be able to have some sober support?
Yeah, after a while I got introduced to the 12-step program and started going to meetings with my dad. And it was great. We would connect and spend time together. I got to meet his friends, you know. And then I found my own way in the 12-step program, found my own sponsor, found my own home group, my own niche, and just created a whole new life for myself, you know. Started helping sponsor others after I got through the 12 steps, you know. I was guided to a sponsor who was just remarkable, helped me go through the steps, very supportive, very encouraging, you know. I just seen him yesterday, so he's been sober 40 years, so he's been a big influence in my life. And things just started to open up once I created an entire network of friends and meetings and relationships, you know.
Yeah, so if you could talk a little bit about how you like repaired some of those relationships that maybe had been damaged during your active use, how you went about doing that and what they're like today.
Yeah, I think going and doing the 9th step and apologizing to people was really the culminating moments for me, because the promises came true. I didn't have any more temptations to go back. I don't crave alcohol or weed or cocaine. It was all lifted, you know. And I remember the moment when that happened. It was because I went all the way up to Detroit to apologize to a woman. I didn't even know if she was still there. I took a chance that she still worked at the same place, you know.
Yeah.
Went in, made my apology, you know. It was very emotional for both of us. But the weight that was lifted off my shoulders on that one apology was life-changing.
Very cool. Those amends really can be pretty spectacular. Now with so you know, you've got some time under your belt and whatnot, and you're a chiropractor and a vet now?
Yeah, well,
okay.
I'm a chiropractor for animals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And that happened when I reached another low moment in my life. You know, in 2008, 2009, I was doing massage therapy because right from When I got sober, I got into massage, and I was doing massage therapy. And then 2008, 2009 came, the housing market crashed, gas prices were $4.50 a gallon for the first time,
Right.
and nobody was getting massages. My home that I raised my kids in got foreclosed on. I was renting a room from friends, my finances sucked, and it was just such a struggle, and I was just kind of lost and purposeless. Fortunately, I had people in my life that said, hey, you're really good with your hands and you really have good people skills. This chiropractic school's doing this prospective student weekend. Why don't you go down and check it out? I think you'd make a great chiropractor. So I had nothing to lose.
Right.
The school, Life University, they reimbursed me for the flight. They put me up in a hotel for the whole weekend. They fed me the whole weekend. I really loved it, but I came back with a lot of questions because I was 46 years old at the time, never had any college. I was just a C/B student in high school. Didn't really like school, And so I had all these fears and doubts. My fourth step, when I did my fourth step, was full of fear. Every relationship in my life, I had fear involved in that relationship, some form or another. So I thought about it for a whole year. My parents were getting up in age, so I was kind of concerned about them. My daughter had an addiction issue, and so she lost custody of her kids. So me and my ex-wife were helping raise the kids together. So I had a lot on my plate, I didn't feel like I could up and leave and go to Georgia and go to school for 8 years, But I spent the whole next year with my parents, talking with them about it, a lot of soul searching and praying, talking with my pastor about it. I went back to Life University a year later, and I met with some doctors and asked them all these questions, and they resolved all my fears. They encouraged me to do it. It was like, you're going to be 54 years old someday. Do you want to be a massage therapist at 54? Or you want to be a doctor at 54? And fortunately, I chose that path. And one day before I turned 55, I walked across the stage and graduated as a doctor. So
how cool is that?
It's a blessing, man. It's a blessing.
Yeah, and it's really amazing the dreams and, quite frankly, miracles that come true in recovery.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's all through other people helping.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't think I could do that, and people just encouraged me. They believed in me more than I believed in myself.
Yeah.
Just like in sobriety, you get sober, people want you to be sober. They want more for you than you want for yourself, and they have the path, they have the direction. All I could do is follow, and that's what I did.
Absolutely. So you moved to Georgia for 8 years?
Yeah, I had to do my undergrad. I had to go to the chiropractic school. It was a struggle because, like I said, I wasn't really that good of a student. The recovery aspect in Georgia was kind of exciting because there's a whole new churches and meeting rooms and people and stories and coffee. I love the coffee. My addiction now is coffee,
Yes.
And it was more of a passion,
Yes.
So meeting people at the coffee pot and just talking and asking questions about the area and the sobriety and the good meetings, the bad meetings, what to avoid, where to go,
Right.
And down in Atlanta, there's so many fascinating people, and Elton John goes to meetings down there. I go to a meeting where Eric Clapton would be seen at meetings, and there's a lot of celebrities that were in recovery down there, so you just never know who you'd run into.
Yeah.
I walked across the stage and graduated with a master's degree on my 60th birthday.
Oh my goodness.
So that was exciting, man.
Yeah.
That was a great way to spend my 60th birthday.
For sure. Yeah, that is very cool. So at 60, raising grandchildren, and how, if you could talk a little bit about how you do that and keep your recovery, intact, but really that physical, emotional, and mental health balance in later years of recovery with, life throwing things at you.
Yeah, it's really great to have the grandkids around. I just spent the weekend with my granddaughter down in Georgia. She's at Life University now, which is amazing.
Wow.
She got a scholarship to play lacrosse, so she's not interested in being a chiropractor. She wants to go to school for psychology and social work so she can help kids that have screwed up parents, kind of like her situation.
Yeah.
Which is really amazing.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, not heartbreaking, but heartwarming to
Right.
see her follow that path. So, she's 19. It's great to see her on her own path. She never really had an addictive personality, so it's been great to watch her grow. My grandson just turned 18. He's always had an addictive personality, And just last March, I took him on a trip out to California. We road trip, did the Route 66. We went to the ocean. We did, LA and Santa Barbara and all that.
You've shared a bit about being a Christian man. If you could talk about how kind of your spiritual path and really what you do to be able to stay connected spiritually?
Okay. So when I got to the point in my life where I was thinking about quitting, I had to make changes, I was in massage school and I was introduced to Buddhism. And then I met a man who was just like an incredible man. He was in sobriety. He was a morning DJ in Los Angeles back in the 70s when rock and roll was first exploding. So he had partied with every rock star,
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to meet him. And he kind of guided me and gave me thoughts, never scolded me, never talking down to me, but just tell me about his path and things that worked for him. And Buddhism was one of the things that really helped him, So with the massage school influence and his influence, I found out Buddhist temple in Ann Arbor. So I started to go there, and I started to meditate every night and every morning, and just got centered and got quiet, and was able to handle stress a lot better and handle stupid people better, and just be able to ignore idiots on the road, and just let it go, and just trust in the process of Buddhism, and then I fell madly in love with the girl. We had plans to be married. She was a good Christian girl. She started taking me to church. I didn't really believe in it, I just went because she wanted me to, I remember being with my buddy and I opened up the first chapter, the first page of the Bible, and I kind of mocked it, and I started laughing at it. I offended my friends because I was kind of like goofing on Christianity and Jesus. And once she left me, I was so broken and so upset, and the Buddhism and the meditation was not taking the pain away whatsoever. And, it hurt so bad that one of my friends invited me to his church. So I'd go to his church every week and sit in the back row, and just tears streaming down my face because I was so hurt, so broken, so hopeless. But never once tempted to drink or numb the pain. I just felt the pain. I got close with my sobriety groups. I started hosting meetings in my house, I knew I had to go back to others. I started doing back to the basics meetings, and get groups of people at my house, and we'd go through the 12 steps in 30 days, and that was really helpful. But going to church each week slowly started to soften my heart and heal my heart, and it started some of this stuff makes sense, in bits and pieces. Then I started to like the music, and the worship music was amazing. That's all I started to listen to was worship music, and I looked forward to going to church. And then I started meeting people, and I started volunteering at church, and then the most remarkable thing, when I graduated chiropractic school, there was a beautiful office space available right in front of the church that I volunteered at for so many years, and the place was already set up to go with, computers and front desk and retail space and treatment rooms, and it was just a gift from God right in front of the church I used to serve at. So,
how neat is that?
Yeah.
And it's also amazing that you can be open to those things, and you had shared about the fear that you experienced so early on and how much was fear driven, and really that transformation to faith. And that's pretty, your spiritual journey is pretty spectacular. The willingness to be open and talking to people about your experience and how it has helped you. I think a lot of times we want to be able to hear from other people, and then being able to share some of our struggles is also that important piece. So being able to hear what people say, just presenting that opportunity for our conversation.
Yeah. It's been very helpful. I was molested when I was 11 years old. Before that, I was very outgoing, crazy, wild kid, maybe had ADHD, Once I got molested, I was like a total different person. I became introverted, shy. I was going into junior high, so now I was around all these new kids and felt really uneasy, and I never told nobody for 20 years that I was molested. Then I got into therapy and started opening up, then I become grateful that it wasn't worse, it could have been much worse. So then I, wrote the person a letter, and forgave him. And him and I are close now today, put that all in the past, and, I'm still grateful that it wasn't worse.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And being able to go through that process and being able to find that forgiveness, because as we know, as we get, I think, get a little bit more understanding that forgiveness really is for you to be able to have some peace.
Absolutely. So
if you could share some inspiration and hope that really spoke to you when you were struggling, whether it's in active use or in recovery, but when you're having those struggle days, what are some words of hope that you could maybe share?
It takes a community, man. I mean, you look back to Indians and prehistoric days and all the cavemen were in the cave, you know. Anytime you're feeling uneasy, you're struggling, it takes a community, and you need to build a group of people to support you.
Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share?
Wow, there's just hope, you know. It's scary getting into sobriety. It's a whole new lifestyle. It's a whole new friendship, but there's hope. You know, there's millions of people who've done it before us. I mean, could you imagine what this world would be like without a 12-step program?
No.
There'd be so much chaos and so many kids abused and so many kids neglected without sobriety, you know, because the 12-step program found the solution. You know, they found the way to avoid drugs and alcohol and gambling and all the other programs.
Right.
You know, there is a step and a format and a way to get out of it and create a new life for yourself.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and taking some time out of your really full life to be able to share your experience. It's definitely going to help somebody out there because you really have made such an amazing transformation. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a gift, man. I'm so grateful for it.